Hello everyone, welcome to week 2 of our ecology unit. This week we will cover learning targets 3 and 4. You will take a quiz at the end of this week and then your test on ecology will be next week. So learning target 3, you will be able to distinguish between individual and group behavior, as well as explain how group behavior increases an organism's chance of survival. Okay, so we're going to be looking at interactions among organisms again with learning target 3. Just a reminder, feel free to pause anytime and then just click play when you're done writing. All right, let's get started. All right, so a couple vocab words to start off with. So habitat and niche. Okay, some people call it niche, some people call it niche. I say niche. Okay, number 1, habitat. This is just where an organism lives. It's going to include all of the biotic and abiotic factors. If you remember, biotic means living and abiotic means non-living. Okay, so that's just where an organism lives. Like a squirrel is going to live in the tree in your backyard. Okay, it includes that tree, the grass, your house even. Okay, that's its habitat. And then we have this word niche. This is an organism's role in the ecosystem. So habitat is where it lives. Niche is its role. Okay, how does it participate in its ecosystem? And it's affected by 4 factors. And so the type of food it eats. Okay, what abiotic conditions? Is it really, really cold like Antarctica? Or is it really, really hot like Arizona? Okay, its behavior. Is it a predator? Is it a prey? Okay, and then competition. So is it competing with other species within its own species, maybe for food, mates, shelter? Okay, so all of these factors are going to affect an organism's role or its niche. Okay, and so some extra vocab terms, and I know there's a lot, but competitive exclusion. So this is when 2 species are competing for the same resource, and then one species may become locally extinct because of this. Okay, so 2 species are competing for the same resources, which means more than likely one of those species will become locally extinct. So competitive exclusion. They are competing and then one will be excluded. Niche partitioning. So these are organisms that are competing for the same resource. So the niche is going to become divided. And so a partition is where, like, if your mom were to put a partition up in, let's say you share your room with a sibling. If she puts a partition up in the middle of your room, that means that your room is divided. Okay, you have one side, your sibling has the other. Same with our niche. Okay, so if our organisms are competing for the same resources, the niche will become divided. There's a partition going up. And then we have this evolutionary response. And so natural selection, which we learned about in evolution, may cause one type of species to gain a helpful trait so they won't compete anymore. So let's say we have 2 squirrels that eat the same sort of nuts. Okay, well maybe through a mutation or something like that, one of the squirrels ends up getting a mutation where they can now maybe eat the bigger nuts from a different tree. Okay, and so that helpful trait, since these new squirrels are eating these bigger nuts that these other squirrels can't, they won't compete anymore. They have their own food source and they're not trying to fight each other for it. Okay, so evolutionary response. One of those species may change. Okay, then we have this term ecological equivalence. So these are species that are going to occupy similar niches, okay, so they have similar roles, but they're going to live in different regions, okay? So this toad, its role is the same, or this orange toad, its role is the exact same as this blue toad, which is super cool looking if you ask me. Okay, this orange toad actually lives in Madagascar, And then this blue toad lives in South America. Okay, so they play the same role in their habitat, but they don't live in the same spot. Okay, so we just call those ecological equivalents. Okay, equal, they do the same thing, but they don't live in the same area. Okay, so that was a bunch of vocab terms, and I'm sorry, but make sure you study those well. We're going to move now into community interactions, and so how organisms interact among the same species and how they interact among different species. Okay, so community interactions. Competition, when two organisms fight for the same limited resources. So this could be food or water, shelter, or maybe mates. Okay, we have a bunch of different types of competition. So we have intra, which means same species. And the way I like to think about that is intra has an A and same has an A. Okay, so intra, same species. Then we have inter-specific, which is different species. So again, inter has the E and different has the E. Okay, so interspecific, competition among different species. Okay, what do we think these two are fighting? Are they intra or inter? If you guessed intra, you are correct. Okay, same species. Okay, then we have predation. So this occurs when one organism obviously captures and eats another. I don't think I have to talk about this one too long. Okay, so the snake is going to be the predator, the mouse is the prey in this picture. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to move on to symbiotic relationships. So relationships among species. Okay, there are going to be 3 different types that we will talk about. And just to define symbiosis, okay, this is just a close relationship between 2 organisms of different species. Okay, that's the key there. Symbiosis, symbiotic relationships, different species. Okay, so let's get into this. All right, so the first one is going to be mutualism. So both organisms are going to benefit. It's mutual, okay? It's mutual. They both benefit. A good example, a lot of times are like bees and flowers, okay? So the bees are actually helping the flowers reproduce because they carry like the pollen and stuff on them. And so when they fly from flower to flower, they're able to provide that pollen and flowers can reproduce. So the flowers are benefiting. And then the bees are getting food. So they're benefiting as well. This example, this bat gets food from this cactus. Okay. But as the bat takes in the food, okay, they also eat the seeds. And so when it flies around and it poops, okay, it allows those seeds to be dropped in different areas. And so that cactus is able to reproduce in different areas. So they're both benefiting. The cactus are able to reproduce and the bats are getting food. Okay, then we have commensalism. Okay, commensalism. One organism benefits and the other is unharmed. Okay. A good example of this, and it might be a little weird, okay, but is between humans and these mites. Okay, so as humans, we actually have mites that live in our eyelashes, which is super, super crazy. And so these mites, they actually feast on our oil secretions and dead skin. However, they don't harm us at all. Like, we are not benefited, we're not harmed, okay? It's just like nothing. But these mites get the food, okay? So one organism benefits and the other is unharmed. Sometimes you will see these signs down here. And so if you see a circle with a dash through it, that just means it's not affected, it's not harm, it's not benefit. Sometimes you'll see the plus sign, which means that obviously it's benefiting from the relationship. Okay, then we have parasitism. So one organism is going to benefit and the other is harmed. Okay, sometimes you will see this is not affected and this one, that can't be right because that is harmed. Organism is harmed. And then this would be a plus sign, organism benefits. So a good example of this is the hornworm caterpillar. So the caterpillar actually is a host, okay? And as what wasps will do is they will come to this caterpillar and they're actually going to lay its eggs in it, which is really, really weird. But the caterpillar is a host for it. And then, so it is harmed because as that larva is, growing up, okay, it's going to end up killing the caterpillar. Okay, so it is harmed. And then the wasp larvae are benefited because they have a nice home, they have food to eat, and then they'll become wasps. Okay, so one is harmed and one is benefited. This video right here is actually a video of this actually happening. It's really gross, and so if you want to watch it, awesome. If you don't, I will not take offense. Okay, so those are our three symbiotic relationships: mutualism, commensalism, and parasitism.